Macmillan Audio presents The Bloodless Princes by Charlotte Bond, read by Helen Mcalpine. Chapter 1. The Creation of the Dragons, The Tales of Tertian. When the universe was young and dark, light existed inside an egg. Within that egg was the whole world, land, sea, sky, dragons, and birds. Everything inside the egg had been given life by Voice, who spoke words of power to summon everything into existence. For many generations, the world was prosperous and peaceful, but on the outside of the egg, small creatures began to crawl and tap and burrow. They swarmed over the shell, trying to get in to unlock its secrets. The dragons were unaware, but Voice knew. The creatures were scared of the dark, and Voice took pity on them. "There is enough world in here for everyone," Voice said, and because every word it spoke was true, this became true. Holes opened up in the shell, and the creatures crawled through. The dragons tried to welcome them because they were small and pink and fragile. They had no scales to protect them like the great dragons did. These new creatures could not subsist on words and magic as the dragons did. They needed the waters and the rivers and the produce of the land. Even then they were still starving, so Voice spoke into being heavy beasts and earth clouds, pink squealers and hairy screamers. When Voice saw how much the egg crackers valued these animals, it also spoke into being all other creatures in the world, moon howlers and earth lumberers, slither cousins and web weavers, pond leapers and more feathered fellows, heather steppers and ground skitters. Soon, the world was crawling with new creatures, but nobody minded because, as Voice had promised, the world was big enough for everyone. But the egg crackers eventually spread so far and wide that they needed more space to grow their crops and feed their animals. They asked Voice what they should do, and Voice thought on the matter before approaching the dragons to say, "These creatures need soft earth, water, and the sun to live their lives, but you do not. Are you willing to live beneath the earth or on top of hills or mountains where these creatures cannot farm?" The dragons were a little hesitant because while they could see the truth of this, they also loved the fields and sky and wide open spaces. Seeing their reluctance, Voice spoke words of beauty, and the rocks of the world filled up with earth ribbons and stone eyes. "There," said Voice, "now the inside of the world is beautiful too. Will it make a pleasing home for you?" The dragons agreed it would, having instantly fallen in love with the earth ribbons and stone eyes. And so they moved into the heart of the earth, digging themselves caves and tunnels that sparkled and shone. This story was told to me by Patamia and Clarix. Both dragons agreed that a lot of hardship might have been avoided if the dirt walkers had left the deep dwellers alone, and in particular, if they had not gone after the earth ribbons and stone eyes. On a personal note, I find it fascinating that in the dragon creation myth, the birds were created at the same time as dragons, whereas humans and all land grubbers were made later. I have often thought there might be a link between dragons and birds, especially with eye color. Dragons exhibit the same pigmentation as owls. Namely, nocturnal dragons have black eyes, diurnal, blue, and crepuscular orange, thus reflecting the color of the sky. It would be a fascinating field of study to see whether dragons have more in common with birds than snakes. Many of my mage brothers currently believe snakes are close cousins to...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?